Welcome to another episode of our Men to Men podcast. I'm Malik Carey along with my co-host Brett Kyle. Brett, what's going on, man?
Malik. First of all, welcome back, bruh. And secondly, Juneteenth. Juneteenth is what's going on, my brother.
Yeah, Juneteenth. Actually, today is Juneteenth, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about Juneteenth, you know, some things that I read about that I didn't know. And I really wanted to I call it our Black 4th of July. And so, you know, Juneteenth actually occurred on June 19th, 1863. And I didn't know that, you know, and that was when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. The Emancipation Proclamation, what the Emancipation Proclamation actually did was it ended the Civil War for slavery. But because many of the Confederate Southern states continued to practice slavery, and they wanted to keep their slaves enslaved, you know, their real freedom came 2.5 years later, which is until 1865. And so, you know, that was something that was real interesting. You know, as I was preparing for the show, and I saw that, I'm like, you know, I felt myself a little upset. Like, yo, man, what just makes you think that, you know what, the rest of the country says, you know what, 1863, we're going to end slavery. But no, down here in Texas, we going to keep on keeping these boys enslaved a couple more years. And, you know, but so that's what's going on with Juneteenth, man. You know, it's a real thing. And, you know, the rest of the country is now picking up on it. But, you know, it's something that it is very special. So, you know, you want to talk about it, man?
Well, you know, the first place freedom actually rang, so to speak, was in Galveston Bay, Texas. There were about 2,000 Union troops, and they announced by executive decree from the then President Abraham Lincoln that about 250,000 enslaved black people, black Americans in the state of Texas were now set free and free to be no longer enslaved and free to be Americans, free to be black Americans. And so from that point on, former slaves reunited with their families. They established communities, and within those communities, they established schools, and within those communities, they ran for political office, and they even pushed for radical legislation. They even sued slave owners for compensation.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. You know, but this post-emancipation period is known as the Reconstruction era. And, you know, it definitely, and that occurred between 1865 and 1877. The post-emancipation period demonstrated the courage and power and determination that blacks had and have been after 200 years of enslavement. And so when we think about Juneteenth, you know, it is considered another Independence Day, but it literally became a national holiday. Well, let me say this. Before it became a national holiday, it was a holiday that was actually started to be celebrated in Texas in 1980. And then now it is a national holiday. And the first one was last year.
Right.
So this is going to be our second year really celebrating something so special and so rich, you know, and we gotta really think about that, that we are starting to make a little bit of strides.
Yeah, we're making progress. Progress is slow, and you know, it took a couple hundred years to get out of slavery. So I guess it you know, we got to press on. You know, and that's what the reason why we're bringing this up is because this being Juneteenth, this is our Black Independence Day. You know, for lack of a better term, and so it's important that we understand that. It's important that we celebrate it, but I think more importantly, we need to, you know, pick up our mantle, so to speak, and move forward for our people, move forward for our communities, our families, and kind of set the stage going forward for Black Americans. You know, another critically important event in American history, or in our case, in Black American history, is the first watch night services.
Yeah, well, that was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the first night watch service is also referred to as Freedom Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And on the eve of January the 1st, 1863, what were you doing January 1st, 1863? You had a musket or chasing squirrel.
I think I was in my grandfather's dreams, maybe my great grandfather's dreams,
running from slave owners.
Yeah,
But anyway, on the eve of
but that's so true though, man. You think about 1863. My great grandfather. We don't think about the generations that have been before. So if you think about 1863, my grandmother was born in 1923. My mother was born in 1945. Think about the generations, man.
Brother, that's why we're having these conversations.
Yeah.
It's important to link our history to our present so that we can create a greater future. And that's what talking about the past is all about, and going back to our roots is all about. And emphasizing these historic moments in our history, in our Black history. Look, we got states that don't want to even talk about this stuff anymore.
Man, you see what they're doing over in Florida?
Yeah.
He's trying to end it all. So he's like, look, there ain't no Black history being taught over here.
Exactly.
They don't even teach Black history anyway, but they're saying we're not trying to teach it at all.
We want to erase it altogether like it never happened. Yeah. But not on the Men to Men podcast. By the way, that can be heard every.
But wait, hey though, did you see what's going on in California though?
No, I didn't.
Well,
What's going on in
California is trying to bring reparations to the state.
Oh, that's good luck with that.
No, they're serious. I'll send you the article, man. They talking about really bringing reparations. Me and Dr. Dave were talking about that in the airport, and it really is something that I got mixed feelings about it, but
Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
We're gonna do that. We'll bring that up.
We'll talk about that in a little bit. Be a good one. Yeah. But the first watch night service. We talked about how what that is it's referred to as Freedom Eve because on the eve of January 1st, 1863, you had Black people who were enslaved, you had Black people who were free. And they gathered in churches, they gathered in private homes, they gathered in community centers. They weren't called community centers back then, but they were called gathering places. Yeah.
Halls.
All across the country.
Yep.
And they were waiting to hear that the Emancipation Proclamation
had been signed
and had gone into effect.
Yep.
And at the stroke of midnight, Malik, it wasn't Dick Clark. It wasn't a ball that dropped. It was Union soldiers that marched onto plantations throughout the South and Confederate states and declared that Black slaves were legally free.
Now, that's so interesting because for so many years we've been gathering in churches calling their watch night service, really not even understanding the history behind this. And so, man, that's so important that, again, as we do our research, as we do these things, we really start to know because no one would have taught us that in school.
I had a friend of mine who's a pastor. He's a Black pastor in a Black church, and he says to me, you know what? We don't know what watch night, what first watch night service is, and yet we go to it, we participate in it, we have no idea what it's about.
Yep, and then we go home and we eat some black eyed peas.
Black eyed peas and some collard greens.
Because we're superstitious.
And some of us pig feet, not me, but some of us pig feet.
Oh yeah,
and all that stuff, and we have no idea what it means. But actually, what it means,
we're schooling you now. This is what it means.
This is what it means.
Yes, it's stemming from Juneteenth, and so we know this. We know our history. And to know our history is really to empower us.
Yep. And first watch night service actually was the night where it was legally declared and legally implemented that we were free, that Black Americans were no longer slaves, they were free. And then Juneteenth, which came 6 months later, right? And 18 days later, which was when it was so-called officially declared.
Well, and let's be clear, that was only in Galveston, Texas, too.
Correct.
Right.
Well, it was nationally, but it was only
right.
It was only
right.
enacted. It was only affected, impacted in
Galveston, Texas, right? And so we got to be clear about that also,
right? Because it took 2 years. It took 2 years for it to be a national recognized
holiday for freedom, not holiday.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
And so again, when I. The rest of the country is saying, "Hey, you're free," but Texas down here in Texas, we gonna hold y'all another 2 years.
Well, here's the deal. In Galveston Bay, they were free. The rest of Texas wasn't, but the rest of the country. Well, first of all, the whole country was legally declared free.
Free, right?
The problem is, America didn't recognize black folks were free, except in Galveston Bay, Texas. The rest of Texas did not recognize it, and the rest of the country did not practice it.
Right.
It was legal, but it wasn't practiced. And the reason why I think that's important, Malik, is think about it for a minute. Look at all the things that are policies, laws, but are not enforced, if you will.
Right, or in our favor.
But there are things that I've learned that are actual laws that are just simply not enforced.
Yeah.
So I went to the seminar a couple of weeks ago, and there was a Caucasian man who was in law enforcement, retired from his job, sits on a panel that is primarily made up of white and black and Latino retired law enforcement.
Okay.
Who said in a public gathering with over 200 people there are laws in place that protect people of color, that have consequences for people who violate people of color. He said, but you know what the problem is?
We don't know.
It's not enforced.
Right.
So these are things that are in place that aren't enforced. And the reason why I bring all that up is because look at how history repeats itself. Look at how we had to wait, 2 years to get slaves to actually be free after they were legally declared free.
Yep.
It took 2 years for us to actually be free.
Yep.
And so I just wanted to bring that up. And we need to really pay attention to what these significant holidays are. And so, as I said before, at the stroke of midnight, African Americans were set free legally. And then it wasn't until Juneteenth when they were actually, to your point, Malik, allowed to be free in Galveston. And 2 years later, the whole country became free. Okay. So So it's just we just wanted to share that. And really just, again, we're Men to Men podcast. We are, for our people, we for all people, but, I think that there's a lot of history we don't know or has not been taught, and we're history buffs. I want to know my history. Yep.
I want to know as much as I can. And
we're not experts on anything, but what we try to do
is do our research.
Is just bring some light to things that people might not be aware of, or people might not be all that up on. And so we have these topics, we talk about these things for the sole purpose of just people being enlightened.
Yeah.
And whatever you do with that, hopefully that light shines on you and you can shine light on others. But you know what, Malik? I understand that you've been away, my brother. And I want to talk about where you were, why you went there, and share with us.
Man, I just got back from Africa, Nairobi, Kenya, and Nakuru, Kenya.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was an amazing, empowering trip. It was, man. Oh my gosh! It was just if you never gone to Africa, get to Africa, man. They lied to us, Brett. The white American, the news medias have definitely lied to us. You get out there and you realize, wait a minute, this ain't no, babies with the stomachs hanging out and flies and help our children kind of thing we see on TV. Those people are empowered. Just a beautiful, beautiful place. It was just awesome, man.
Well, let me ask you this real quick before we kind of get into the nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
What was the purpose of going to Nairobi in the first place?
So I went out there actually with Dr. David Ireland. We went on a mission. I mean, we went. Dr. David, you know, he speaks to millions. He speaks to people all over the world. And there was a pastors and leaders conference that we went out for.
Okay.
And so there were probably about 4,000 pastors and leaders at this conference. And over a 3-day period, he was there for the first day, and then he spoke at like 3 other churches. So it was just really impactful. And he just asked me to go along with him. And, you know, it was just really great to be able to carry his bags for him.
Okay. Well, you know what? That's real cool. Now, I want to ask you this real quick.
Yes.
Because me and Wifey Pooh, we want to go to Africa too. How long was it, just out of curiosity, how long was the plane ride about?
So it was broken up. So that was good. I mean, it's 7.5 hours into London.
Okay.
And then, you know, depending on where, because if you're going to, you know, Kenya's on the eastern part, it was about 8 hours. But there are some parts of Africa I believe you can get to in about 6 hours. So
that's after you get to London?
Yeah, that's after you get to London. Okay. So once you get to London, it departs. London is the main hub going into wherever you want to go into. But it was 8 into Kenya, but then coming home because of the jet streams and all of that stuff, it was about 8.5 hours coming home. And then we had a 4-hour layover.
Okay.
So it kind of broke the trip up.
Okay.
So it's not as I'm just sitting on some plane for 15 hours.
Accommodations that were pretty decent.
Oh no, we had beautiful accommodations. Oh,
so it
was British Airways, man.
Okay, gotcha.
I would highly recommend British Airways.
Gotcha.
The seats we had were amazing. Again, we were more in an economy business kind of class, so the seats were great. Just the quality of service. They feed you like crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. So it's just awesome, man. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me dive into this a little bit. So well, first and foremost, give me 2 or 3 things that you enjoyed the most before we talk about more deeper things. What are the 2 or 3 things that you enjoyed?
Oh man, you know, everybody's dream is to go on safari, right?
Okay.
So I got to do that. I got to go to Nairobi National Park and really get to see what the wildlife is, man, and to see those tigers and, you know, the zebras and the giraffes, and just to see that, of course. And then the people, man, you know, I really enjoyed learning about the tribes, the different tribes, and we'll get into some of that because, you know, there's some tribes that are still very tribal.
Okay.
You know, not many, you know, but really starting and really learning about, you know, the Kikuyu people. I mean, you know, and learning about the Maasai warriors and learning about the Lowell people. Now, something that's so interesting about the Lowell people, that's Lou. To become a man, they have to have their 6 lower teeth extracted before they become men. Okay. Yeah. So, you know, that was pretty interesting, right?
That's kind of like the brothers in West Virginia.
Yeah. No, but there's fallout to become a man. you gotta have them pulled out, and you cannot literally, if you budge, if you make a noise, you start all over. So yeah, so that's
So from a you mentioned the word tribe. So actually, you met and ran across different tribes.
So I met a couple of tribes, but the people who were our hosts, they were Kikuyu. Okay. All right, so that was the Kikuyu tribe, and that's the one that I guess you would probably most recognize, and they would take you in. Okay. The Maasai tribe, they're more darker people, but they're tall. They're very tall, but they control all the cattle, all the herd, and they're pretty much still. And for the most part, they got to kill lions to become.
Is that right?
Oh yeah. So those are the young men that have to kill a lion to become a man, and they got to do it between 12 and 16. So the thing I thought about was King David. Believe it or not, when you start to think about that, but it was really awakening. And again, what I did learn is we hear about you have to kill a lion. The Kenyan government is really trying to step in and intervene behind that, just from a preservation of the lions and stuff like that. But they still are, and you see them, herding. You just see them on the countryside. The more modern guys, they don't wear the garb, but for the most part, you still see a lot of them wearing the garb and in their villages.
Interesting. So you mentioned something about the king trying to stop certain traditions. Want to talk a little bit about what the kind of or the form of government that they have over there, or a little bit about the politics.
They're British,
Okay.
most of the, but they have an African president. I mean, and guess what? He's an evangelical Christian.
Okay.
And so they really stand on one of the biggest things there was a joy was just to see the family intact and the Christian values that they stand on. And it's real. They don't play. Now, here's a funny side to that because I learned some things. In Kenya, there was a time where, you could still have, depending on your tribe, you could still have more than one wife.
Okay, so that's Christian, like, huh?
Wait.
Okay.
Wait. No. This is the Christian part of it. If they get saved.
Oh.
If they get saved, they don't break up the family. So if you come in with 2 wives or 3 wives,
Blake,
I'm just trying to tell you something.
Blake,
So you would see in the church. You would see in the church. Now think about this though, because we're bringing our American to it though.
Okay, but let me
Wait. Let me finish.
Okay.
Because this is how it was explained to me.
Okay.
We're doing is we're bringing our American values to what they are.
Okay.
Right? Because those are their customs and their traditions. And for us to go into a country and start bringing what we think is in there, it's like them saying, well, why don't you have 2 wives?
Okay.
And I saw some interviews and they talked about that where a woman said, jealousy, we're not taught to be jealous. This is what we're bred to do. And so one of the tribes, which was the Maasai tribe, that was something else that I learned about, was these girls are getting married now. The parents are getting them more as they get older now. But these girls used to get married at 12 and 13 years old.
Those arranged marriages.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're talking about 12 and 13-year-old girls.
Yeah.
Now parents are saying no more, depending on the parent, now you still got some people who have money and they'll say, like, look, I want you
Now,
to do it.
is there a dowry system there?
No.
There's not.
No.
So I have a 12-year-old. I live in Nairobi. I have a 14-year-old daughter. What is the advantage of me forcing my 14-year-old daughter to marry a 45-year-old man?
Because I'm bringing you money and you don't have any.
All right, so it's a dowry.
Well, we're right. Well, that's
Okay.
for some people.
Okay.
That's not all people. You got people that are saying no in the Maasai tribe saying, no, we out of here. We taking our kids and we getting out of here and we running away.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So some people reject it.
Yeah, some people are rejecting it more.
Okay.
But again, we're going on what we do, what we say. Now, is it biblical? Well, if we look in the Bible, if we want to go there were several people in the Bible who had more than one wife.
Okay,
Right?
so I'm going to ask you this because I don't know.
I don't either.
No, I mean, I'm just going to ask because I don't know. What I was raised and learned morally and obviously biblically, and from a Christianity standpoint of view, you're only supposed to have one wife, at least married to one at the same time. Anyway, are you saying that? Well, I heard you say that in their culture,
Right. In many cultures.
in their Bible, I'm assuming it's their. Is it their Bible? Or is it something
the culture. It's but in the Bible doesn't say. If you look at it, we can go down to. This is what it says. Here's the deal.
Is this their Bible?
Wait, no. Because this is what I learned. So remember, we talked about the church. Now, what it says in leadership, they cannot serve in leadership. So if you got more than one wife, because it says. You should to be a leadership, you have to be the husband of just one wife. Okay. But if you look throughout the Bible, there were many people who had more than one wife. Right? Okay. So if that's what they're saying, now again, I'm just bringing what I learned.
Right.
Okay. But if someone gets saved in church, if they come from one of these tribes and they become a Christian, they do not break up the family. So if you come in with one, you can't serve in the church, you can't preach in the church, you can't do any of those things.
I got you.
But you will see a husband and 3 wives and 6 children.
He just has no power.
He just has no power.
At least not outside his house.
Right, right. So I'm just telling you the things I've learned, and they were fact. These weren't like the people. I was sitting there like, what?
Yeah.
And Dr. Dave was like, yep. And I was like, whoa.
So is that true pretty much of all those 3 different tribes?
There are a lot of tribes like that.
That they can have multiple wives?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's no law that says you cannot. So here in the United States, you can only have one wife. In Africa, in some part, there's no law that says you cannot have one. You can only have one wife.
Okay. So if I heard you correctly, you intimated that the women who are sharing their husband, there's no jealousy.
There's no jealousy.
And they're okay with that.
That's what they're raised to be.
Okay.
Right. So, because I watched the interview, you know me, I do my research. So I'm like, and I'll show it was on you. They was like, no, we're not raised to be jealous.
Did you actually meet a wife who was sharing a husband?
I didn't see. I mean, I saw in church. You did see like a guy sitting with more than one woman.
At a whole pew,
right? But
that's my pew,
right? But
my pew,
right? But to be able, and that's what kind of sparked the conversation.
Yeah,
But it's a true thing, bro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's pretty interesting. So, from a government standpoint of view, I know you said they're British rules. So, does that mean it's a democracy? Do they vote? Do they
definitely
elected
vote.
officials?
Yeah, elected officials, Parliament. They have everything. So they have governors. They don't have mayors.
Okay.
All right. So governors kind of take the place of mayors.
Okay.
And how we are.
Okay.
And so now, Nairobi is one of the fastest growing cities in Africa.
Okay.
So they're growing. They have they have a lot of resources.
Okay.
The state that some parts are very metropolitan.
Okay.
And then there are parts that are
rural.
Yeah. So very, 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 very. What I loved was the levels of honor, and everybody looked like us.
Meaning
everybody. So the gas attendants, the doctors, the hospitals, the lawyers.
Was there a class system there?
No class system.
Really?
No.
So they looked at the lawyer the same way they looked at the gas station attendant.
Oh, yeah.
The same way they looked at the cab driver.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
We all look alike, bro. We all look alike.
No, I don't mean look alike. I'm talking about the way they were treated.
Oh yeah. No. I didn't get a sense of that at all. No.
Okay. So let me ask this real quick because I don't know. I've read. I don't know if I believe everything I read, but from what I've read and heard, there's a lot of corruption in government in the continent of Africa.
Well, yeah.
What
that's
about
true.
what about
but
where you
Kenya
are?
wasn't because again, this guy really came in and cleaned up a lot, and I believe his father was in power first, so he really cleaned it. Now we can talk about Nigeria. We can talk about some of them other places.
Okay.
But yeah, there of course there's high levels of corruption.
Okay.
But I think Nigeria gets more of the rap for that than Nairobi.
Okay, you talked about the fact that it's a growing country. Talk a little bit about their economy or the businesses.
I got to really see. You got 2 parts, right? You got the hustle and bustle of the just communities, and we've rode through several. We had a 3-hour kind of ride through from Nairobi to Nakuru. So you got to see a lot of major cities, and you got to see a lot of the entrepreneurship is just off the chain.
I know that excited you, huh?
Yeah, man. Just to see the street vendors and the street peddlers, and you got that, and then you have regular, people at the hospitals and workers, and but when you go into the towns and you just see, and I mean it's like New York City on steroids.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Did the metropolitan cities in Nairobi's a city, obviously.
Right.
Did that remind you of any major city in the country?
No, in some ways, yes, because just the hustle and bustle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just got cars running in and out, and you just got people selling stuff at every corner.
High energy.
Yeah, just a lot of high energy. Oh yeah, definitely. And it starts I think we So the day we went to the national park, we were up at 6 o'clock in the morning on the road, and it was already thriving. It was like, just hustle and bustle. And, I mean, you talking about the guys with the carts that, they travel miles. Now I see why they're in shape too, bro.
Yeah.
Because, they carting horses and mules, and you got that now.
Yeah.
You definitely got brothers too who got mules, and they rent mules out, and they got mules lugging luggage and lugging food and everything. So yeah, it's definitely horse and buggy too.
What about the sporting life? Is it soccer?
Soccer.
It's
It's
all
football,
soccer.
football and basketball.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you say football, you
football,
mean soccer.
soccer. Yeah,
and they play basketball there too.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was it really widespread? Was it like throughout the country, or was it just...
soccer's throughout the country.
Okay.
You see those guys playing on dirt fields everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you get a chance to hoop anybody?
No, I got.
You didn't post up on Nairobi.
I wish I had. I didn't have the chance, but I would have loved to. But I did get a chance to go take a run out there, so I was able to do that.
Okay.
Now I see too why the Kenyans run. One of the things I learned about Kenya, you want to know why they run every marathon? They literally train. They train 8,000 feet above sea level.
Wow.
So the altitude, they train next to the equator.
Right. I was going to ask you, how hot was it?
Well, it was just like here today.
Okay.
The weather, because it's their winter season.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just that was awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. So you guys went at the right time, man.
Yeah.
Right, winter season.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, so from a socioeconomic standpoint of view, you talked earlier about there is a class system, so I'm assuming there's a upper class, a middle class, a lower class.
Yeah, and listen, man, you see it just like you see a Mercedes Benz on the road, and you see the guys with the motorcycles and the mopeds. So yeah, definitely.
So what about social life? What about nightlife, social life? What's the social?
Oh man,
if I went there,
they got clubs and they got they doing it there. Yeah. So when we got in, it was Friday night.
Okay.
And the clubs, there was a strip where Johnny
just got paid.
Yeah, Johnny Walker's was the name. Like you see remember I guess Johnny Walker, the liquor or whatever.
Right.
They got like clubs called Johnny Walker's like on every other strip. So they got a nightlife. Oh yeah, big time. Oh,
and so nightlife, young people, middle-aged people, old heads,
probably,
old heads like you and me, maybe.
No, I think it's more the young people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. And what else did I want to ask you? How about the challenges as you talk to people? I know Pastor Dave probably pretty well connected with people who are in the know, so to speak. What are the challenges that you learned that face folks in Kenya or Nairobi?
Just like here, man. Every challenge is the same. I mean, globally with the economies, people are worried about their families and worrying about money and worrying about the things we worry about. So the challenges. One of the things I learned is we're human beings, and we all worry about our families. We all worry about the bills being paid and met, and we all worry about the things that the world worries about.
Yeah. And so you talked earlier about it's acceptable to be married to multiple women.
Mm-hmm. Now, that's not everybody. You do have some people who are married to, a husband and a wife. But, yeah, we're talking more tribal. We're talking about some of the old world, still old tradition. So, but you do have the newer tradition that, you have husbands and wives that are just together and with a family. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask about the so-called the unmarried folks who are dating, who are socializing, who are trying to find.
I really didn't get to see that a lot, because again, we were at a pastors and leaders conference, and pastors and spouses, so we didn't really get to see, that. And like there was one of the younger pastors, he's like in his 40s. He had already been married 20-some years to his wife.
Okay.
So marriage is something that is key.
Okay.
Yeah, huge. And the family.
So it's hard to roll up into Nairobi as a single man. Well, if you can have multiple wives, I guess it ain't that hard. But there's not a lot of it's more of a family.
Oh no, it's strictly
oriented country. With that kind of a culture.
Well, Africa is though. I mean, those are the things we're not talking about. That the family is key.
Okay.
Yeah, tradition is key.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's all of Africa.
Okay. Yeah. Well, last question, bro. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate this because when you told me you were going, I was like, wow. How interesting is that? That's a place I always wanted to go to. My wife always wanted to go there too, and hopefully we'll get there one day. Last question though. What in your mind, what either it was said to you or implied or inferred, or you just picked it up, or you just came to certain conclusions? What do you think their attitude and their thoughts and their views and their opinions of Black Americans?
Oh, I can tell you.
Okay, tell me.
Yeah, I mean, literally, it's. I remember the guy saying, "Yo, we're gonna pray for you guys." Like, I mean, their thing is when they looking at. First of all, they're laughing at America.
Really?
Oh my gosh, they don't have the same regard as we think they have for us. No, especially what's going on with 2 weeks ago Joe Biden falls. That's global. We saw that over there.
Okay.
It's this idiot. This whole pride thing and what's going on with that. They're like, yo, how are you guys surviving?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially as Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's my man said to me, he literally said, man, I'm praying for you guys and your wives. Like you guys are, they think America's demonic, man.
Okay.
Yeah, and so they root for us. They definitely root for us. They respect us. There's no, I used to think. I think that's more Caribbean than African. How a lot of Caribbean men look down on, especially African American men, but they seem to really have a high regard for African American men.
Yeah, I asked that question because I have in the past life run across a lot of African, not a lot, but enough of them who are over here. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're scientists, and I've been told quite often and for a long period of time that they just don't respect Black Americans. They don't respect us because they think we're lazy. They don't respect us because they think...
and I've heard that, but I think, like I said, I think I've really heard that more.
Well, I'm talking about Africans. I'm not talking about Caribbeans.
Course,
I'm talking about Africans.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't get that sense over there.
Okay.
And again, maybe they had just a high regard for Dr. David too.
Okay.
And I was with him. So, but I did not get that. I've heard that just like you. Many times, that we are, we know to deal with that, but that's a lie, right?
Okay,
yeah.
All right,
I remember having those conversations myself with many different nationalities, and saying, the one that I could really remember was when I was married to my first wife. Her father was they were from Guyana, and I would get into arguments with him because he's like, and I said, well, why you want me to marry your daughter? Oh, you're different. I said, all my boys are educated. All my boys got their degrees and doing well for themselves. This is not something that, you running around here just saying that you're making that up. Because I know a lot of brothers that ain't lazy and motivated. So,
stereotypes is just that, stereotypes, and different people have different views. And different people see us differently, and we see different people
we see them differently.
Yeah,
right.
And
so like you said, when you even just heard about two wives, right? What does that mean? It's what they do. And we can't put our values on them, and they can't put their values on us. We can learn from one another, but I think a lot of times that they come in and they put the values on us, and they're trying to, come and these are things that I learned also too, right? That were very important. Like people coming that the colonialization has a lot of people over there stuck.
Yeah, and with that comes a negative feeling toward us because we're the ones doing the colonializing, so to speak. And so we're blamed for it. And you mentioned it earlier. I'm assuming you were inferring that I was trying to superimpose my culture and my thoughts and my feelings on their culture, which is wrong of me to think that or feel that or do that or say that. And so that would rub people the wrong way. The wrong way. No question about it. So I can certainly understand that. And, there's this whole ugly American mindset when you go to Europe.
Big time.
And so I thought that maybe you might have experienced some of that
No,
while in Africa as well.
No.
Well, I'm glad you went, man.
And again, we were insulated too, so.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you went.
Oh man,
I'm a big
I want to
believer.
go back.
I'm a big believer in mission work, and I know that you guys do a great job where you are.
Yeah,
ministering it.
when I always say, when I go to Nicaragua or something like that, I come back and I feel like a sense of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Here I came back feeling empowered.
Why so? How so?
But when you just look, we live in America. We pretty much serving you going and you see, and I'm not trying to say it's wrong or right, but we see white people and we see different bro, over there, all you see is us.
So you felt pride.
I felt proud.
Okay.
Yeah.
I spoke to somebody a couple of years ago who went to Africa for Christmas and spent about 30 days in Africa. She came back and she said to me, not to me, but she said to the group, I just happened to overhear her say, greatest experience of my life. I never felt prouder about being a Black American after having gone over to see my people, to see the roots, the tradition, the culture, the way they live, the freedom they live with. I never felt prouder about being a Black American. So not to put words in your mouth, but as we close this thing out.
That's exactly how I felt.
Okay.
And it's not even a Black American. It just felt proud to be Black in a place where you just want a mini.
Okay.
You just want a mini. You're like, whoa. You go to the gas station. You're on the golf course. You're on the general manager of the golf course, because we stayed on a golf course in a country club for 2. He's Black.
Okay. Nice.
Everybody who's serving you, everybody, and they're polite and they're warm, and it's like, yeah.
Could you live there?
No.
Okay. Why not?
Because I'm Americanized. My culture is what it is.
Okay. You wouldn't be able to make that transition, that cultural transition.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I'll be honest.
No.
Yeah.
It's all good, brother.
I could go back a few times.
You can visit.
I could visit.
Be a part of it and enjoy it. Absolutely.
Yeah,
okay.
No doubt.
Well, like I said, I'm glad you went. I was excited when I heard about it. I was excited to hear about your trip, and that's why I'm glad you shared with us. Thank you for that. Thank you for your mission work.
Yeah, man.
We really appreciate that. And as we close out, I just want to remind us, Black folk, first of all, happy Juneteenth.
Yeah, and I hope you guys had a great Father's Day.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that you understand the significance of Juneteenth and the significance of the first watch night service.
Yep.
And the significance of just being Black and realizing,
being proud.
Yeah.
There were things that I did learn about as far as, the colonialization over there of, being able to look a white man in the eyes. That was something that they had to learn how to do. Yeah. And hear the same thing, looking people in the eyes, being proud of who we were,
right,
and who we are,
right.
And what Juneteenth is saying to me is, we got to get more empowered, so that we can just take what's ours, not anybody else's.
Right.
We deserve to be here. I heard something that a white history teacher said something a long time ago, Brett. She said, and she was a professor, and she said, we don't understand as African Americans how powerful we really are. If your ancestors survived that slave ship, you're already powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then your other ancestors got beaten, whipped, and came out of slavery.
Yep.
The power we have, and if we stop letting the media and we stop letting the school systems and we stop letting everyone dictate who we are, we really can be a powerful people.
Yeah. But we also have to partner with each other, and we have to start loving each other, and we have to stop hating each other, and we have to stop killing each other.
So here's the deal. That's what they do in Africa. They love one another.
Okay.
Yes.
Praise God.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, thank you, bro.
Yeah.
Close us out, my man.
Yo, thank you for another episode of Men to Men Podcast. Again, we can be reached at Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, and YouTube. We're here every Monday coming at you live. We thank you for a great show. Brett, happy Father's Day. I hope you had a great one, man.
I did, and happy Father's Day to you, my brother.
What tool did you get?
What tool?
Happy Father's Day, man.
Take care,
God
bro.
bless,
Be
bro.
good. Bye-bye.